question everything. Todd Cherches, tell me more.
Sure. The first one, be curious, or sometimes I call it ABC, always be curious.
Yeah.
Um, it's always about, wondering. I remember, in fact, I hadn't thought about this in years. I was telling this to my Columbia graduate students last year. When I was a kid, I would ask my mother a question. We all ask our parents questions like, why is the sky blue, or why, whatever. Some parents say, I don't know, I have no idea. Other parents make it up. My mother always said, oh, that's a great question. Let's go look it up together. And that's part of my teaching
Ooh.
philosophy. When my students ask me a question that I may not have the answer to, I'll
Yeah.
say, let's look it up together. So
Oh my
a
gosh.
lot of instructors may tell their students, put your phones away, and I'll say, take our phones out. Let's look it up. Let's see who can find that fastest. You make it into a knowledge scavenger hunt, right? So
Ooh.
always be curious is always, and it's related to the second one, ask why, but always ask who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? So like
Nice.
clients coming to me about, say we need leadership training, or we want, whatever. I'll ask, who is it for? What do you want covered in it? When and where would you like to do this? Why are you doing this? What's the purpose? What's the intent? Then we could figure out the how, and then I could give you a quote for how much, right? So
Yeah.
that's my linear process. What's funny is some clients are like, I don't have the time for that. Just tell me how much is leadership training, and I'll say, how much is a vacation? How much is a car,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So you
Good.
need to define the scope and all these parameters. You
Yeah.
can't just make it up, because if you do, you
Right.
can't be held to that. So
Well,
similarly,
that's true too.
it's, so be curious. Always wonder. There's a saying, the QBQ. What's the question behind the question? When
Oh
someone
yeah.
asks something,
Dig
always
deeper.
thinking, why are they asking that? Right. So there's a reason behind that. So that's part of the
Yeah.
philosophy of always be curious and dig deeper. And
Yeah.
you visualize an iceberg. What we know
Right.
and see is just that tip, but there's so
Yeah.
much more beneath the surface that it's up to us to explore.
Yeah. And if you give a quote and they're like, oh, that's really expensive, the nice comeback is as opposed to what?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
When,
Is that
when
you
I,
know their outcome and they're not gonna, work with you, then they probably aren't gonna get that outcome at least the way you could get them there.
a friend of mine who's a master salesperson once gave me this amazing phrase, which is so simple and so powerful, is, what's the cost to you of not doing it?
Exactly. I love
I
that
love
one.
that, because it's
Yeah.
like there's an ROI of doing it, but if you don't do anything, nothing's going to get better, or you can dig a deeper hole. So
Yep.
definitely, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
man. So yeah, I love that ask why one. That's awesome. Okay, so nobody has all the answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, part of question everything is, and question everyone as well, right?
Mm.
A lot of times we put people on a pedestal. In fact, I tell that to my students. I always say our formula for success, my NYU class just started the other night, so it's fresh in my mind. I always say the success of our class is going to be 1/3 on the content, 1/3 on my teaching, and 1/3 on your contributions and your questions. Right. So if I say something, I want them to challenge me. I want them to say, I disagree, or that's not my experience, or do you have an example of that? Because if you just assume your professors are always 100% right, you could definitely be misled. And there's no, even people who are subject matter experts, they still don't know everything. And that includes AI, right? A lot of times we'll put questions into ChatGPT or whatever, and we assume, oh, the robot knows all. It doesn't. It makes a lot of mistakes. There's what they call hallucinations, where they make stuff, the robot makes stuff up, right? So I think that's
Funny.
part of it's connected to everything else, the being curious and asking why. Don't take anything on face value. Always seek evidence, look for verification, look for trends and patterns, and connect the
Mhm.
dots. So those are all
Yeah,
things we need to think about.
I love it. My background's special ed, so I did that for over 30 years. And
Yeah.
and yeah, my thing was what I believed in is, teach them how to think, not what to think,
Yeah.
and give them the connected foundational patterns so that they can think. And being in special ed, I was trained to do rote, teach rote by rote learning, whatever. And oof, that never got kids anywhere. And it was very linear too. Like if they couldn't, sort their colors, then you couldn't take them on and teach them shapes. And we had kids in sheltered workshops that
Mm.
absolutely didn't belong there. So I hear you. All
Yeah.
right. Very cool. Anything else you wanted to add to this one, Todd?
No, I think that's in terms of questioning everything and everyone is we're all learning, right? We're all on this learning journey together. So let's figure it out together.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks
Thanks.
so much.